to talk about isolation and socialization in seniors. We are social animals. We set up our lives to be social. We create our communities, we create our tribes, we create a support system so that we can thrive. And loneliness and isolation will actually change your brain cells. So it's important that as caregivers, we're aware of what's going on with our clients. Now, not everybody's going to be lonely. Not everybody's going to present in the same way as what you might think lonely and isolated is may not be the same for your client. So it's always good to check in with them, like Chris was talking about. Getting to know who they are, spending time reminiscing, spending time socializing, talking, chatting, letting them tell you, even if it's for the 100th time, about when they were little, because they will, and it's okay. Right now, we're seeing an increase in illnesses because of the isolation. Unfortunately, the social isolation will increase chronic conditions such as lung disease, arthritis, impaired mobility, and depression. And since our seniors are now locked in because they are the highest risk of COVID, it's important that we take time to notice what's going on with them. It's difficult with the diseases that go with aging to disseminate what is isolation and loneliness and what happens to be just an ongoing chronic problem. It is a serious health concern, and there's been lots and lots of studies done on it because of the heightened risk. Dr. Gary Kennedy, the chief geriatric psychiatrist in Montefiore, he calls this a major health problem, and we're going to see increases as we get out of the COVID issues. We're going to see some PTSD around isolation and socialization. So with social interaction, it's important that we allow for that time with our clients. And of course, it's common for our seniors to be less socially active when they start experiencing the loss of their friends, the loss of their spouse, decreased ability for transportation, mobility, fall risks, children growing up, leaving the home, creating their own family. And it can be detrimental to your physical, mental, and biological well-being, and your emotional well-being, of course. The more repetitive social interaction they have, the more likely they are going to be able to stay healthier and live longer. And it lowers the levels of disability and allows them to live longer and more independently. Oh, I did too. Hold on. So when our seniors don't have the social interactions that they need, we see an increase in high blood pressure, obesity, depression, anxiety. And I'm going to go over depression and anxiety a little in more depth so that you know what you're looking for when you meet depression. It can look completely different than you think. Without the social interaction, they also are more susceptible to some of the dementias and Alzheimer's. If they're able to use the brain cells, they stay around a little more. Also become a fall risk and a risk for hospitalizations, rehospitalizations. So it's important that we just keep an eye on what's going on. We talked about that. So in seniors, signs of depression, once you get to know your client, or even if we've gone out and done the assessment, part of our assessment is to assess their mental health to see if we need to bring in other agencies. In Denver, we have a Wiser Mind that will come out and help with cognitive therapies. And you might not think that you might not think that cognitive therapies are great for somebody with dementia, but it is. My dad had dementia, and one of his favorite times was when either the chaplain or the therapist would come out, because they would be able to validate what was going on with him. They'd be able to validate the feelings that he was experiencing, and he got to talk. There was somebody there paying attention to him for an hour and wasn't triggering him like his kids did. So when you're in with your client, you need to be aware of whether they're taking their medications, because with depression, individuals will stop taking their medications. Even if it's a psych med or just a heart med, they kind of feel like it doesn't matter anymore. Why should I take it? So it's important that we're aware of that. When you're in the home, if you notice that your client has been sad for a while and just starts crying out of nowhere, that's a good time to sit down and say, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And if it's something that you feel like is out of your realm or out of your wheelhouse, let the administrators know, let your direct supervisor know, so that we can follow this up. This can be a part of the changing condition that Chris was talking about. If you notice that they're sleeping longer or they're sleeping less, that's an important changing condition. That can mean depression, or it can mean many other physical changes too. Significant changes in appetite, more food, less food, it's all the same. If they seem snappier or bitier than usual, they're irritable, they're angry, they're worried, they're agitated, or you see a lot of anxiety going on, that can be a sign of depression. And then if they're negative and they feel like it doesn't really matter, or they're even telling you it doesn't matter anymore, it's important to listen. Again, with the sleeping, maybe they don't have a lot of energy, or they would just prefer to sit on the couch. Sometimes there's feelings of guilt or worthlessness. The inability to concentrate and indecisiveness can take the form in depression. Maybe they aren't taking part in the activities they liked before. Maybe it's harder to encourage them to go to their yoga class or hang out in the activity room and do the puzzles with the other residents if they're in an assisted living. Unexplained aches and pains are another one. That could be from a fall, that could be from depression. And with our seniors, recurring thoughts of death or suicide, unfortunately, they are in the stage of life where they're looking back over their life and they're thinking, did I do okay? And it's either something that they feel okay about or something that they don't and they regret. So it's good to sit and talk. And you don't have to be a therapist. You just need to be aware and let the people around know. And then, not that anybody's drinking during quarantine, but an increase in substance abuse. If you notice that there's more liquor bottles in the trash than there were before, that's a good time to take a moment and ask, what's going on? And then we have aches and pains again. And of course, situational depression, when your significant other or your spouse dies, there's gonna be some depression, and it's good to be aware of that, especially with COVID now. Okay, hang on. So some of the benefits of getting our seniors involved is it really does enhance their quality of life. It gives them something to focus on outside of themselves. And if they're sitting alone on their couch all day, or watching the soap operas and TV, that gets to be pretty monotonous and boring. And if you're getting them out for maybe a walk, it helps with mobility and strengthens the muscles. It leads to longer life. If they're happier, they're going to want to participate and they're going to stick around for a little while. And lowering the Alzheimer's and dementia risks. They've done many, many, many studies that show the more involved and the more active our seniors stay, it slows the progression of Alzheimer's and dementia. So just get out for a walk, do an exercise class, or even a puzzle to help maintain those synapses that are just sitting around watching TV. And it helps them stay connected with their environment, because once you withdraw, it's depression. It's not fun when you aren't able to stay connected and you don't care. So, and that's another big one, is giving up. It enhances their dignity and independence. The more they're able to take care of what they need to take care of, the less depressed they're going to be. And when you're socializing and you're with other people, of course it's going to increase your feelings of happiness and mental health. Also, one of the great things with nutrition is being able to take them out to the grocery store or prepare a meal together, keeping them involved and keeping them engaged. When they've gotten to the point where they've raised their family and everybody's moved off, having a group of seniors to interact with and socialize with gives them a sense of belonging and accomplishment. And it keeps them healthy and active. And if you can get them interested in their nutrition and in a bit of fitness, they're gonna feel better, and their self-worth and self-confidence will increase. Still trying to figure this out. So as caregivers, what can we do? So obviously the changing condition is an important thing, especially if their kiddos are out of state. They are not involved every day. So if they can read in our notes that mom refused to walk and sat and watched TV the entire shift, maybe they can give mom a call, or you can give me a call and I'll call the daughter and say, hey, you know what? Betty seems to be more interested in hanging out on the couch. Has anything changed? And that way, if it's a med issue or it's time for therapy or a new medication for depression, we can keep ahead of that rather than them suffering and feeling worthless and all of those icky feelings that go with being depressed. If they're in a community, we can encourage them to come down and have meals. We found one of our clients is in a community out here, and now that they're delivering meals and socializing with her more, she's actually getting better. She's getting less confused. Her nutrition is better, and she seems quite a bit happier, which we're really happy about. So we love her. If you're able to provide positive praise, and not be pejorative, but let them know that you appreciate the way they do something. And then help increase their self-esteem, remind them, reminisce with them, keep them involved, maybe have them tell you a story about the pictures, or create a picture book, create a scrapbook. And maybe address other health issues that may keep them from leaving, may keep them from socializing. If it's incontinent, maybe it's time to work on getting Depends or briefs. So it's important to look for other ways to engage with other seniors. There's a bunch that we can do. Things like encouraging them to get involved in church, or another group, or a senior center. Senior centers are already are good. Creating that scrapbook, maybe help them email a friend, or show them how to hook up Zoom if you know, so that you can get them engaged with other friends or their children or their grandchildren. We have another little gal who loves her online yoga. So her granddaughter comes over and does senior yoga with her 3 times a week. And this 92-year-old is going strong, and she can do that yoga. It's pretty amazing. Maybe assist with a full virtual get-together. Encourage the entire family to Zoom. I know with a lot of our seniors, for Mother's Day and Easter, they put together a Zoom to include the family that they couldn't see. So there's always opportunities. Maybe organize a class, a Zoom class, if they like to knit, or they like to crochet or paint or cook. Maybe they could organize a Zoom class with your help to get involved, to stay involved. Or there's always online concerts. I know with Facebook, there's lots and lots of artists doing live concerts. Maybe you could put one of those on. Just keep them involved, keep their brains working. I skipped over some of my statistics. So 60% of our seniors report feeling a lack of companionship, which is the beginning of isolation. I got Rick's pronunciation. Isolation. 40% or 43% of all seniors report that they felt lonely, and only 18% of them lived alone. And then 25% of them lived in nursing homes. So, and another point, social isolation makes a senior more susceptible to elder abuse. So it's important to be aware of what's going on. Are they sending the minister on TV $5,000? And again, it's linked to long-term illnesses. And they're more likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors such as not eating, increased substance abuse, not moving, things that are important to our daily living. And not showering. That's another good one as far as depression. And so it's important to be aware of what's going on there. Where's the next one? So this was actually my introduction. It's important that we are aware of our seniors and how this is becoming a major crisis. Seniors will downplay their depression. They'll try to hide it because they want everybody to think that they're okay. They are, they're really good at keeping that because there's such a social stigma in their time compared to our time. We embrace it now, but when they were younger, if you were depressed, you were broken. So just be aware of what's going on there. And especially with COVID going on now, it's important to check in with not only your clients, but our personal seniors and see how they're doing. And it can have frightening consequences if the depression goes unnoticed. I mean, things like psychosis, suicidal behavior, malnutrition, falls, things like that. And as we come out of this, to watch for the PTSD around the isolation. There have been studies done that say that isolation for more than 10 days can lead to PTSD. So as we maneuver through the COVID-19 quarantine, we just need to be aware of what can happen. So it's just important that we are aware. I don't think I have much more other than the effects of socialization or social isolation on health can be as damaging as the other high risk categories like high blood pressure, smoking, and obesity. And there's studies being done. It's hard to do a study on isolation and socialization on seniors because there's such a correlation in the high risk diseases like high blood pressure, confusion, dementia, that it's hard to tease out those factors. But we are seeing that it does help. It does mitigate some of the issues of isolation and loneliness and it provides health benefits. So not everybody's going to be depressed. Not everybody's going to feel isolated or lonely, but it's important that we get the facts now and that we're aware of what our clients are going through, and just help them adjust to the changes in life. So that's all I got. Any questions?